everybody, welcome back to my lab. Today I've got something a little bit different for you. It's kind of like Christmas, but not quite. Instead of getting something brand new, I'm going to fix up something that I purchased that wasn't quite up to snuff, and the part just arrived today. What we're going to talk about is this YaeTek 493 smoke eater, and it works kind of okay, but not quite up to my expectations. The reason I purchased this one was it was pretty much the cheapest thing I could find, and before I came home to work, I figured it was kind of gonna do the business. But what I found is trying to work under the microscope, it needs to be just a little too far away. And so what I've done is I've purchased a new fan. Now this fan hopefully is a little bit quieter, but definitely should have more suction. And so we're going to take a look at it. We're going to test it out. We might talk a little bit about how I chose that fan and install it and test the new fan. All right. So let's benchmark this and see what we have for some empirical flow characteristics and some noise levels. All right, let's go to it. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to want to do is a bench test to find out what characteristics this fan has, and see A, what noise we're going to get from it, and B, what's it like as a smoke collector. All right, and so the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take a look at the noise. And so I'm going to use my handy dandy tape measure, and we're going to set up here at about call that 30 centimeters, and we'll take a look here. Now this is in no way absolute numbers, okay? It's all incremental. And so if you take a look, we're about minus 55 dB, minus 50 dB, something like that, in my not so quiet room. These are not absolute numbers, okay? This is just on my recording on the microphone, so somewhat empirical. All right, so let's turn on the fan. And we see it come up. It's not horrible, but it is whatever it is. Okay, and if we move in a little bit closer, from 30 centimeters to say 20 or 8 inches, we can see it's a little bit noisier. Now, this isn't a horrible fan as far as the noise. It didn't really bother me working. I'm trying to record with it. It's somewhat problematic, and here we can put the duct adapter on if we want. And there's the reason why I wanted to change this out in the first place. That noise is actually the bushing, not the bearing, that's out of balance. The whole motor is able to vibrate, and if you have a good fan, it shouldn't do that. And so we'll call that a reasonable example. Now, the other thing is when you're soldering, obviously you want to be able to solder at a bit of a distance and have it pull the smoke in. And so here we are at 30 centimeters, and just a little bit of stray comes in. I'm not sure if you're able to see that at all, but yeah, most of it is outside the influence of the fan. Even if we tuck it down, there's 30 centimeters again. Some stray gets in, 25. You're starting to pick some up there. So I mean, this fan design isn't horrible. The shroud is actually reasonable. At 20 centimeters, you're pretty much picking it all up. So, you know, as far as CFD, as far as your flow characteristics, it's not horrible. It really isn't. And for the price that I paid, I was reasonably happy with it, with the exception of that really noisy bushing. And so what I wanted to do was be able to improve the airflow a little bit, be able to get rid of that noisy bushing, and possibly lower the noise. Okay, so let's rip it apart, and I'll show you where I came up with the dimensions on and how I chose the fan that I chose, and we'll swap it out and give it a try. Disassembly video. Alright, so here we go. We've got our unit. We'll disconnect the power. And okay, so the first thing, yeah, YaeTek 493 ESD safe. Not sure why this would be touching your components, but we'll leave that aside. ESD, nice wankery word. Okay, like I said earlier, this is really nice for ducting, if only I had somewhere to duct it to. And you can see the beautiful fan inside there. Yeah, okay. We can get rid of our little wire holder for now. We'll set that aside. Okay, so how this comes apart is fairly simple. What you need to do is remove this little wire cage, and we'll just pop it out here for now. And you don't need to take it all the way out to remove the carbon block. Unfortunately, you only get one with it, and they do get torn up rather quickly. Which is actually a good sign. It means that it's actually doing something, the activated carbon in it. There are 4 screws here. We'll undo those. Easy peasy. And that grill lifts out. There we go. Granting us access to this beauty of a plastic fan. Okay. One little wire crimp in there, and one solder to a switch. That should be no real problem. Possibly one of the lightest fans I've ever seen. And we're going to replace that. I'm going to replace that with this beauty that just came in today. Quite a bit more heft here. Okay. And we have an alloy frame. You can see that the motor's all sealed up. We're not able to see inside at the winding and the controls. Not sure why they managed to peel off the manufacturer, but yeah, there you go. Yeah, so now one of the things that we're going to want to do is make sure that it's blowing the right way. If you take a look, there's a rotation and direction. So when we put this down in, the label side is going to want to be down. Okay, and simply enough, what you do is I measured that this is indeed a 120 millimeter fan, the same as you would have in your PC. The difference being is that this sucker is 38 millimeters deep, and so that is really important that the depth matches, because the way this is put together is just sandwiched together. Now a little bit here or there we could play with. Wouldn't make a huge difference. We might have to shorten the screws up or get some longer ones. But yeah, not the end of the world. Okay, and again, this one, you can see there's your direction, and it's blade side up as well. So life should be good. We'll simply get some heat shrink and cut that away and replace it with this one, and it looks like our wires are long enough, so that's fantastic. All right. So do we bother trying to remove it? No. Okay, I give up. Turn the soldering iron back on. I'd say we should turn our smoke heater on so that we don't have to breathe any smoke fumes, but solder fumes. But that's kind of redundant at this point, right? I'm just removing the heat shrink tubing. It's quite inconvenient the way it's gotten in there. It's like they melted it right into the solder. And we'll remove the old one. Oh, jeez. All right, they didn't even try to twist the wire around the little terminal in there. Second best thing to glue is solder, I guess. Okay. We'll just, yeah, I don't feel like getting my soldering, getting my wire strippers out. I'll just give it a quick little strip there. Some heat shrink tubing. Grab it that long for that. That seems to be good enough here. Yeah, I think we can make that work. Okay. So, seeing as my heat shrink tubing is fairly small, I'm going to splice this. I'm literally going to take the wires and stuff them inside each other like so. No, I'm not, because this is a high quality fan and they went and tinned it for me. So I'll trim that back a little bit so that I can get to some fresh wire. There we go. Splice the wires together. The reason for this is that it gives me a little bit more of a bond than simply trying to hold it and solder the two wires beside each other. This is, in essence, as intimate as they're going to get. Okay. We'll just give it a little tuck down, make sure there's no furries. And bring my heat shrink tubing up. Yeah, get in there. Far from perfect, but as everything's plastic in here, we'll call it good enough. I'll just shrink that down a bit so it doesn't slide off. Okay. The other guy, we're going to strip it back a little bit further. Not that far. And we'll get the larger heat shrink tubing on. And I'll give it a little hook so that it actually goes around my connection. Alrighty. And we'll slide our heat shrink tubing down the best we can. I think in both of these cases I could have done with something bigger. Okay, I don't like the choices that I've made so far, so I'm going to fix this because, well, it's better to fix something than regret it. And basically, the heat shrink that I chose, yeah, it's definitely too small. Has me a little bit worried. If I'm going to make a video, I guess I should do things right instead of faffing about, as they might say. There we go. Get that heat shrink tubing off. It's just too small. And we'll desolder this guy. One thing I definitely don't like about this is the ESD safe, but the ground wire they've just simply terminated here. Didn't even terminate it; they just cut it off. And seems like a project for another day. We're just gonna cut this off so I can splice it again properly. Get rid of that. Okay. There we go. We'll desolder this guy again. Fantastic. And we'll use this heat shrink over here for our splice. And we'll shrink down nicely. And I'll use some of this heavier one, larger diameter one, on the other guy. Okie dokie. So we'll splice that together. Beauty. There we go. Not very good. Give it a little bit more here. Not that this is a high current application, but we definitely want it to hold. Shrink it down. Do a product review on this guy later. Okay, this is the Baku 858A. Seems to be the one that everybody in the world uses. Cheap, cheerful, and works. A couple issues with it. I'll probably end up modding that one as well, but we'll see. Actually a little hole in there. I'll see if I can get this guy fed into it. It always makes me feel a whole lot better if I can mechanically as well as electrically anchor my wires. That way, if there's ever actually some strain on it, it's not going to slip out on me. Let's grab my cheap little solder sucker here. Okay, might be cheap, but it does the trick. In the hole. little drink. Helps if you wait for the solder to freeze before you pull it out. There we go. No real excuse for that one, seeing as I'm using lead-free solder. Alright. The joke being there that the lead-free solder is so dull. Okay. And there we go. So we've got our wires connected, easy peasy. Make sure this is wrapped in there and set down. Just double checking the direction. Don't want to take it apart if I don't have to. Okay, now is a great chance we can give it a quick little test here. Power's off. Make sure that it doesn't fly away on us. All right. So far, so good. Let's get her buttoned up. 4 screws and 4 holes. So far, so good. So I didn't have to worry about the screw pattern at all when I was ordering these. You'll find that a lot of these fans have a standard hole pattern. Okay, 120 millimeter fan. They're all going to have the same pattern. The same with a 90. The same with 150. And so it makes ordering them really easy. It's kind of like the NEMA standard, so that we don't have. You don't have to guess, and you can definitely interchange the parts, and that's what we're doing here today. Is just a straight up substitution that should yield a whole lot more performance. Okay. All right, you got to plug it in. Safety first. So far, so good. All right. So, assemble her back together. Now, another thing that I wanted to deal with was this bit of widgety wodge. That's kind of shit, isn't it? Holy jeez. I'm making it worse. I take it too far. Hey, there we go. All right. So, this will go on like so. You need the 2 thumb screws. Itsy bitsy. There's a hole. Alright, so far so good. So far so good. Get our cage back on. We should have did that before we screwed it all the way down. But fantastic. In goes the awesomeness that is the filter. And it still works. Easy enough when you actually take the time. So I'll leave this off for our first test. We'll give it a sound test, and we'll go from there. All right. So here we are. We're all assembled. Everything's ready to go, and we're going to do our sound test again. Here we are. We're at 30 centimeters, and not really feeling the, it's going to be quieter thing, but let's see what happens here. Oh, that's noisy. Oh. But it sounds a lot better if noisier. All right, there's 20 centimeters. Ridiculous 10. All right, so definitely more noise. I was really hoping that it would be a little bit quieter, but hey, so be it. It's definitely got more legs on it. And so here we are. We're out at 30 centimeters again. Not sure how effective it'll be at this kind of distance. But by geez, it's pulling her in. Well, 100% of it. Well, fantastic. You know what? Seeing as I do so little recording with the ventilator on, and just more concerned with work, I'm going to call this successful. That fan has a lot more willy to it, and we'll call it good enough. So let me just do a quick little setup here. I'll put things back the way they should be on my bench. I'll slide this back on for no apparent reason, and we'll try it behind the microscope and see how it is. All right, let's have it. So here we are. We're under the microscope, and where to put the tape measure? There we go. And so our actual distance to my soldering iron to the, we're good 30 centimeters. We're a foot away, and you can see typically, well, maybe you can see when I'm soldering here, the smoke comes up and nicely hits my camera and tends to make it a little bit dirty, and I don't want it all covered in resin. It's not a great one. You can see the video here if you'd like to see the review on that, but I definitely don't want to ruin it for no apparent reason. So now let's get some suction going here. Oh, dude, it's all going in. That is fantastic. None of it's making it to the camera. All right. So, review of the YaeTek, YaeTek 493. I'll link it in down below. It's worth the money. It's definitely, cost to value. It's there, but if you need a little bit more, throw another $25 at the fan. The shroud design is okay. That's really typical of what you're going to see, and but adding $70 from what I've seen on Amazon doesn't get you the value. Okay, so yeah, go ahead and think about purchasing a shroud and upgrading it. If you're looking for quiet, this is never the way to go. Okay, a remote system is definitely what you want. But if you're looking for just brute force, this does the trick. Okay, so if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content like this, subscribe and check out the links below. Okay, thanks and have a great day.